Welcome to the Science of Fiction HFY Galaxy Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from HFY Galaxy Tales, where humanity always finds a way. Asterisk, the crash site. Asterisk, the wind screamed across the empty desert of Varnes 3. Red sand rose in swirling clouds, hiding the sky and choking the air. Corporal Jace Riven moved slowly through the storm, his visor cracked and boots sinking into soft dunes. He had tracked the signal for over 2 hours, and now it was close. Too weak for a ship, too steady for a beacon, too strange to ignore. The command center had told him to return to base. Sandstorms getting worse. Abort mission, they said, but Jace couldn't shake the feeling. The signal didn't sound like equipment failure or a distress code, it sounded like a heartbeat. He climbed over a dune and froze. Ahead of him, half buried in the sand, was a broken escape pod. Smoke hissed from its side, glowing orange against the dust. Parts of the metal shell were ripped open like claws had torn through it. Jace pulled out his weapon, then slowly moved forward. The hatch was open, and inside, he saw her. She wasn't human, that was clear. Her skin was a pale silver blue, bruised and bleeding. She lay curled on the floor, breathing slow. One arm chained to the wall. Her clothes were torn and scorched. Her long white hair tangled with blood. She looked no older than 20 in human years. Jace didn't move. He watched for signs of danger and ambush. A trap, anything. But she didn't wake. She didn't move. She looked broken. He tapped his wrist pad, opening a channel. Command. I've found something, he said. Alien life form, female, escape pod, injured. The reply came quickly, sharp and cold. Do not engage, Corporal, hold position. Extraction team, en route. Jace stared at the girl again. She was shivering now, blood soaking the floor beneath her. Something about the way she lay there defenseless, forgotten it, made his chest tighten. He switched off the comm. He stepped into the pod and knelt beside her. Her face turned slightly, weak eyes flickering, open. They were violet, glowing faintly, full of fear and confusion. She tried to speak, but only a soft sound came out. It's okay, Jace said, keeping his voice low. I'm not here to hurt you. He gently cut the chain with his plasma cutter, careful not to touch her skin. When the last piece broke free, her body slumped against him. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. He lifted her carefully and stepped back into the storm. His visor flared with warnings. The storm thickening. He tapped the emergency beacon on his belt and set a fake signal trail heading south. Then he turned east and vanished into the dunes. 2 hours later, Jace reached a cave hidden in the cliffs. It was an old mining shelter, long abandoned. He kicked the door open, laid the girl down on a crate, and lit a small heater. She was still unconscious, breathing slow and shallow. Jace dug into his med kit, using basic antiseptic and field bandages. He didn't know her biology, but he did what he could. He cleaned the wounds, wrapped her arm, and placed a water tube near her lips. Her skin twitched slightly. Then her hand moved. She was waking. She sat up fast, eyes wide, heart pounding. Jace raised both hands. Easy, I'm not your enemy. She looked around wildly, then at her arm, then at him. Her voice came out in a language he didn't know. Fast, panicked, broken. He shook his head. I don't understand. She flinched back. Pressing herself against the wall, Jace reached into his pocket and pulled out a protein bar. He unwrapped it slowly and took a bite to show her. Then he held it out. She stared at it, breathing hard, then slowly reached out and took it. Her fingers were cold and trembling. She bit into the bar and chewed like she hadn't eaten in days. Jace sat across from her, saying nothing. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, but the cave was warm and quiet. The girl finally spoke again, slowly, carefully, using her hands. She pointed to herself and said, lure. Jace nodded. Jace, he replied, pointing to his chest. She pointed at the sky, made an explosion with her hands, then pointed at herself and mimicked pain. Her face darkened, her eyes full of something more than fear, shame. Jace watched closely, realizing she wasn't just a survivor. She was a prisoner. The chain, the wounds, the silence. Someone had left her to die. Someone didn't want her found. But why? Lura pointed at her wrist, then drew a strange symbol on the ground, a crest with sharp edges and circles. Jace took a picture of it and sent it to his offline AI. The AI pinged within seconds. Symbol matched with the Teari Dominuna, powerful alien race known for genetic experiments and bioweapons. Rumors said they erased their failures. Jace stared at Lura, her head now resting on the wall. She looked more like a scared girl than a monster, and if the Tayori wanted her dead, there had to be a reason. He stood, checked his rifle, and looked at the storm outside. Command would be hunting him soon, but he wouldn't give her up, not now. He had made his choice when he carried her out of that pod. No one deserved to die forgotten and alone, not even a broken alien girl. Asterisk. She wasn't just an alien. Asterisk. The storm outside lasted through the night. Inside the cave, the small heater glowed faintly, throwing soft light across the walls. Jay sat against a crate, half asleep, his rifle close to his side. The alien girl, Laura, slept curled in a corner, her breathing shallow but steady. He had done what little he could: bandages, water, and food, but her wounds were strange. Some bled like human cuts. Others seemed to glow faintly under the skin. In the early hours, a sound woke him. Laura was awake, watching him. Her violet eyes calm now. She pointed to the bandage on her arm, then made a small nod. Yeah, I did that, Jay said quietly. You were bleeding bad. She tilted her head, not understanding the words, but something in his tone made her soften. Jace pulled out his datapad and drew a simple, image stick figure, a wound, and a bandage. He pointed to her arm, and then to the drawing. She stared at it for a moment, and then gave a small, tired smile. It was the first time he saw her smile. Even if faintly, he needed answers. He tapped the datapad again, this time drawing a symbol that matched the crest she had scratched earlier. He pointed to her, then to the crest, and raised his brows. Her face darkened, her hand tightening into a fist. She spoke a few sharp words in her language, her voice trembling with anger. Jace didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. She had been betrayed, left to die. Her eyes burned with the kind of pain no wound could explain, and suddenly, he felt a weight in his chest. She wasn't just some alien girl. She was someone who had been thrown away like trash. He reached into his pack and pulled out another protein bar. She hesitated but took it, eating slowly this time. When she finished, she pointed at his rifle, then at the cave entrance, and made a sign of danger. Jace understood, nodding. You think they'll come for you? He asked softly. She just looked at him, and that look said everything. They weren't coming to save her. They were coming to erase her. By midday, the storm eased. Jace stepped outside, scanning the horizon. The red dunes stretched far, but something about the silence felt wrong. No wildlife sounds, no wind now, just stillness. He returned to the cave, uneasy. Laura was awake, watching him carefully. She motioned to her chest, then touched his chest. Laura, she said, pointing to herself. Jace, he replied, pointing to himself. She repeated his name, the sound of it strange but soft. For a moment, the cave felt less cold. Over the next few hours, they found a way to communicate. She drew things in the sand shapes, ships, stars, while he guessed their meaning. When she drew a symbol shaped like a broken circle and put a slash through it, she shook her head and looked away. Jace didn't know the word, but he knew what she meant. Her people didn't want her. As night came, Jace set up a small fire with scraps of mining wood. Laura sat close, warming her hands. She watched the flames like someone seeing them for the first time. He wondered if her species even used fire, or if this was new to her. You know, Jace said quietly, I don't even know if you understand me, but I'm not leaving you out here. She looked at him, tilting her head slightly. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I've seen soldiers left behind before. Not again, not if I can help it. Suddenly, his compad crackled to life. Corporal Riven, this is command. A voice barked. Your signal vanished. Report your position now. Jace hesitated, looking at Laura. She tensed, fear flashing in her eyes. He switched off the comm without replying. The silence after that felt heavy. Laura seemed to understand what he had done. She pointed to him, then mimed walking away, shaking her head as if asking why he stayed. He pointed at her wounds and simply said, not leaving. She didn't understand the words, but the tone reached her. That night, something strange happened. Laura's wounds began to glow faintly, threads of silver weaving across her skin. Jace watched in awe as the cuts closed faster than any human body could heal. Within hours, she looked stronger, her eyes brighter. She wasn't normal. Something inside her was different, powerful, and maybe that was why her people feared her. The next morning, Jace knew they couldn't stay. He packed his gear, checked his rifle, and looked at her. Time to move, he said, pointing to the horizon. She nodded, standing with surprising strength. Together, they left the cave, moving toward the canyons. As they walked, she pointed at the sky and made a gesture like a falling ship. He understood their coming. And if they found her, they wouldn't hesitate to kill them both. For the first time, Jace felt something he hadn't in years: responsibility. He didn't know who she really was, but he knew this. He wouldn't let them take her again. The ones who left her. The sky above the canyon was dark with clouds, lightning flickered in the distance, but the storm hadn't started yet. Jace and Laura moved quickly between the rocky cliffs, staying low, staying silent. They had found shelter in a narrow crack between stone walls, hidden from drones, but they both knew it wouldn't be enough for long. Jace checked his scanner. 4 ships landed nearby, he whispered. They're searching the ground. Laura didn't speak, but her eyes showed she understood. She placed a hand on the rock wall, her skin glowing faintly. A pulse spread from her palm through the stone like soft silver light. The scanner blinked red. Jace frowned. You just scrambled their signal, he said. Didn't know you could do that. Laura gave a faint smile, then turned serious again. She pointed upward, toward the ridge, then mimicked a weapon firing. They were close now. Too close. Jace loaded his rifle and handed her a small shock blade. Can you fight? He asked. Laura nodded without fear. She held the blade like she'd used it before. Her body steady, her stance sure. They moved up the rocky path, every step quiet, every breath slow. On the ridge, shadows moved, tall figures in dark armor, weapons in hand. Tayori soldiers. They didn't shout, didn't speak, just scanned the rocks. Methodical and cold, Jace took a position behind cover, aimed carefully. He tapped Laura's shoulder, and she crouched beside him. 3 on the left, 1 behind that boulder, he said. Laura nodded and raised her hand toward the sky. Her eyes began to glow brighter, her breath steady and controlled. Before Jace could speak, a flash of silver light burst from her fingers. It shot into the clouds, and thunder answered. A sudden gust of wind howled through the canyon, and rocks tumbled from the cliffs. The soldiers looked up too late. Jace fired, hitting the one behind the boulder. Laura leaped from cover with speed Jace didn't expect. She moved like a storm, silent, fast, deadly. Her blade slashed across one soldier's arm before he could turn, and she kicked another off the ridge. Jace followed, taking out the last one with a shot to the knee. The Tayari dropped with a grunt. Stunned, but alive, they tied him down with cable and waited. When the soldier woke, he looked at Laura and hissed. Failure, he said in his cold alien tongue. You were never meant to live. Jace leaned in. Say that again. The soldier spat blood, then glared at them both. She was made in the Dominion labs, spliced, altered, perfected, then discarded when she disobeyed. Laura stood still, her jaw tight, her eyes burning. She wasn't a soldier, the Tayari said. She was a weapon, but she refused to obey. You left her in that pod to die, Jace said slowly. The soldier smiled darkly. It was mercy. Jace punched him once, hard enough to knock him cold, then turned to Laura. They used you, he said. But not anymore. She didn't cry, but her eyes were wet. She touched his chest, then her own, then the sky. A simple message: thank you for seeing me as more. They left the ridge and climbed to higher ground. Jace activated his long-range comm unit, patched into an old Earth relay. He broadcasted a message in every open language channel. This is Corporal Jace Riven, of Earth Forces, reporting evidence of Tayori biological crimes. He attached the video of the wounded Laura, the captured soldier, and the truth he'd uncovered. Then he closed the signal and sat down beside her. For a while, they said nothing, but far above, in orbit, satellites turned toward the message. Ships picked it up, and the galaxy began to listen. A week later, everything changed. The Dominion denied everything. But other escaped experiments came forward. Whispers became voices, and voices became pressure. The Tayari Council tried to silence the storm, but it was too late. The truth had been seen, and it couldn't be erased. Jace and Laura returned to Earth together. The people didn't fear her, they welcomed her. She helped build new healing technologies, combining her knowledge with human science. She spoke only a few words, but they were enough. One day, Jace asked her why she saved him during the fight. She paused and then said clearly, because you saw me. She wasn't just an alien. She was a survivor, a fighter, a symbol of what happens when someone chooses to help, instead of walk away, wounded and abandoned, until the human found her.